My name is Joni McIntire. I'm the Poet Laureate of Lucas County. I'm not a professor, I'm not academic, but keep in mind you don't have to be. You have books that you can do research, right? So what I wanted to present was a real quick look. You know, when you start to look at the current landscape and your heart starts beating real hard and you go, oh my gosh, it's the worst it's ever been and it can't be worse. Then you look at history, it's been pretty rough. So just anyway, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna unload some roughness on you, okay? But the story there is we can rebuild, okay, right? So what I wanted to talk about was the McCarthy era, okay? And do you know what I mean when I say Red Scare? Does anybody know what Red Scare was? So we've really had two communism, right? We're terrified of communists, right? Okay, so what I wanted to talk about, I'm going to talk about McCarthy era and how it kind of got to that point, and then how some of the poets were treated. Okay, so it really starts with Mitchell Palmer, okay? Mitchell Palmer became Attorney General in 1919. Think about what was going on at that time. He led federal agents in the Palmer raids. It was a series of mass roundups and arrests of people who were perceived to be radicals and political dissenters. And they were all suspected of being subversive and communist. Now that's the first Red Scare. The first Red Scare was right then, right, coming out of World War I. This is when we had the Espionage Act of 1917, the Sedition Act of 1918, and these both criminalized many forms of speech. Coming out of World War I, we're freaked out by globalization. We're freaked out because there was just a pandemic. And then we have the 20s. We roll into the 20s. Women get the right to vote with the 19th Amendment, right? That happened in 1920. We have some technological innovation. We have an explosion in arts and literature. People are like gaining a little bit of voice. Harlem Renaissance is, big part of the 20s. Badoom. 1924. J. Edgar Hoover. Does everyone know who J. Edgar Hoover is? Please boo that. Okay, thank you. Yeah, J. Edgar Hoover is appointed as the director of the Bureau of Investigation. Now that's what preceded the FBI. But here's something that's important to keep in mind. J. Edgar Hoover comes in 1924 as the head of the Bureau of Investigation. He then rolled into leadership at the FBI that replaced the Bureau of Investigation. He remained director of the FBI until 1972. Just think about that period of time. And if you think he was some nice guy, he was not. He was super in everybody's business. He kept files, regular people. He would force tax checks on artists. We don't make any money anyway. Who cares? IRS, go after them, right? Okay, so anyway, he gets in and he's doing his fancy business. In 1929, we have the stock market crash. We have the Great Depression in the 30s, right? So, Now, World War II is brewing abroad in the late 30s, growing unrest among workers, and a growth in the interest in socialism. Why? Because workers are being treated badly, right? Okay. 1940, we passed the Smith Act, which forbade any attempts to advocate, abet, advise, or teach the violent destruction of the U.S. government. And when we say violent, we're like, these are like in, broad stroke terms. They make it broad on purpose. While we end up working with the Soviet Union as allied forces against Germany in World War II, we're very keen to control growing interest in socialism, communism, any of that kind of worker right talk. In Congress, the House Un-American Activities Committee was approved as a permanent committee in 1945. Now, it was abolished in 75, but 45 to 75 is how long that existed. In 1950, they passed the Subversive Activities Control Act, the McCarthy Act, which made it a crime to take actions that might contribute to a totalitarian dictatorship, which is, interestingly, was being used against workers and not against, well, like what we see happening. Okay, so, and the Communist Control Act of 1954, which prohibited communists from holding office in labor organizations. So, like, they're passing, this is how these kinds of things are made legitimate. Control is made legitimate through these different things. Joseph McCarthy. So let's just get to the Joseph McCarthy point. He was a senator from 1947 to 1957, chairman of the Senate Committee on Government Operations and the Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. Like, what are these things even? But, okay. Who was known for making wild accusations to uncover Communist Party members and sympathizers. At first, he focused on people working in government positions or contracted by the government, but then it was a free-for-all. He led the charge to accuse wildly anyone and everyone. And this gained a lot of traction in the media and arts. They started saying, listen, the media is pushing these red ideas on you. They are indoctrinating your children. You have to suss out who is doing that and stop buying their movies, stop giving them press. So that was a huge thing. So that was the Red Scare. So it gained a lot of traction. People accused of being subversive might go before the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations and the House Un-American Activities Committee, and they often had no chance to exonerate themselves once they were accused. So, like, that's the backdrop. Try to be an artist. Try to be an anyone, saying anything in that environment. Well, then you take someone like, let's take Dorothy Parker. Does anyone know who Dorothy Parker is? Algonquin Circle. Dorothy Parker was she was actually at the height of her writing. She was writing screenplays. She was a poet, but she wrote a lot of other things. And she actually would attend the Un-American Activities Committee hearings to support other writers and artists before she was, of course, individually subpoenaed in 1947. By 1949, she was blacklisted. And do you know about the blacklist? So what happened was, sort of quietly, people in media would start saying, listen, they're getting too much negative attention, so we're just not going to. And that person just wouldn't get work. All of a sudden, quietly, nobody would hire them anymore because they're too hot. So she hit that list, even though it was the height of her career. And by 1950, a biographer of hers wrote, she was named in the pamphlet Red Channels. There was this pamphlet that listed all of these communist sympathizers that the broadcasting and advertising industries adopted as a guide to employment and blacklisting. I mean, like, it wasn't even quiet anymore. At some point, like, we all knew these are the people to avoid. They must be Reds, right? FBI agents, so this is just a weird little bit. FBI agents showed up at her door with questions about who she knew and who was communist, and that's what they would do. They would come, they would say, you know, who are your friends? Where did you go? What did they do? Who do you know who's a communist? Prove to us that you aren't a communist. When an agent asked if she had ever conspired to overthrow the government, she allegedly responded, "Listen, I can't even get my dog to stay down. Do I look like someone who could overthrow the government?" By 1955, the FBI decided she wasn't a threat, but they kept sections of her FBI file redacted long after her death, 20 years later, right? So it doesn't matter. They decided early. You just had to be mentioned, and people dropped you. Langston Hughes, right? Dream deferred. Langston Hughes was asked to give a talk at Occidental College in 1948. It was intended to be a fundraiser to help pay the college costs for a local black female high school student to attend the college. The college had just admitted its first black student that year. Meanwhile, State Senator Jack Tenney, chair of the legislature's fact-finding committee on un-American activities, was investigating alleged subversives in California. Everybody likes to go after California first. And 1 week before the event where Langston Hughes was supposed to speak at this college, this committee issued a report describing him as a communist. They canceled the talk immediately. In 1953, McCarthy's Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations called Langston Hughes up to testify. And rather than defy the politicians, he chose to cooperate. He refused to name names, but he repudiated anything he had done in the past that seemed radical at all. Under questioning from McCarthy and his top lawyer, Roy Cohn, who would later be Donald Trump's lawyer, Hughes denied he had ever been a Communist Party member. He admitted that he once admired the Soviet Union, but said he had become disillusioned years earlier. He claimed that his poem, Goodbye Christ, had been misunderstood, and that he was neither an atheist nor anti-religious. He maintained that he believed in democracy and racial equality, and seemed to be criticizing McCarthyism itself when he told the committee, and this is his quote, "I would like to see an America where people of any race, color, or creed may live on a plane of cultural and material well-being, cooperating together unhindered by sectarian, radical, or factional prejudices and harmful intolerances that do nobody any good. An America proud of its tradition, capable of facing the future without the necessary pitting of people against people, and without the disease of personal distrust and suspicion of one's neighbor." And here's the last one, and I think this is, sort of the big one that happened at the time, or one of the big ones that happened at the time. In 1952, William Carlos Williams, does everyone know who William Carlos Williams is? The red wheelbarrow. The plums, they were so sweet. Do we remember these? Do we know who William Carlos Williams is? The poet? Thank you. Okay, good. Please, go read some William Carlos Williams. It's so easy. Images poet, beautiful. Okay. In 1952, William Carlos Williams was chosen to be the new consultant in poetry to the Library of Congress. And that's what later became known as the Poet Laureate of the United States, but it used to be consultant in poetry to the library. He had a stroke that year and was just a little delayed in being able to accept the position. But, of course, because he was chosen, the FBI, led by, who was our best friend? J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover, that hole. They had to investigate. And ultimately, of course, they produced a file 153 pages long on William Carlos Williams, the small town doctor. They discovered that in the late 1930s, he'd signed petitions and spoke at rallies advocating friendship between American and Soviet citizens for civil rights and for support for the Republican forces in the Spanish Civil War. The FBI wanted to use his appointment as a way to attack the Library of Congress and its financial support of artists So they conducted interviews with his local police chief, his local town newspaper editor, various teachers in the town, asked academics all over the country, and of course, there was no real evidence that Williams was subversive. Of course not. William Carlos Williams described himself as an American Democrat, a liberal, and a virulent anti-fascist, at heart apolitical. Well, the FBI doesn't like that anyway. So they pressure the Library of Congress to rescind his appointment. But they don't tell the press that. They say to the press that it was his ill health that caused it. So he never got it. And they, from that point until 1956, had no consultant to the Library of Congress. So we have this history of having a poet laureate or somebody in this except for this period of time. So I bring all of this up to say how many of the things that we just heard that are actual factual history that really, really happened sound familiar right now, right? So believe what you believe and be just obnoxious about it because it doesn't matter. They choose what they want to hear. So, there you go. Yay, go team! I do want to do a very quick sort of shameless plug for free speech. There is a website called ToledoPoet.com, ToledoPoet.com, and there's a calendar on there. We put any poetry-related events, open mics, readings, stuff like that. It's not a perfect website, but the calendar has a lot of stuff. Show up, listen to each other. The greatest way to express free speech is to show up for each other and just talk and listen to each other. So share what you have to say and listen to each other. Thank you. Peace out.